And what I'm seeing across the board right now is AI is shifting the power dynamics inside of organizations.
This notion that AI is coming for us. AI is not coming for us. We're coming for us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to AI with Bry, the show where we're cutting through the noise and helping leaders learn, leverage, and lead with AI. I'm Brian Denstead, and you can think of me as your Chief AI Officer, helping you find your path. Each week, we bring someone who's navigating this AI shift from the inside, not just observing it, but actually living in their work with their teams. Today, I am really excited to welcome Christina DiGiacomo to the show. Christina brings something, I think, to this conversation that's genuinely underrepresented in the AI discussions that I'm in on a regular basis, a deeply human, operator-first perspective. Christina is the founder at 10P1, and she is the Chief Philosophy Officer, and she's also helping out at the C-Suite Network on their AI council. So her background is really in building teams, driving execution, and helping organizations find their footing during periods of real change. And if we're not in that right now, I don't know what we are. In that lens, people, outcomes, adaptation is exactly what I think is missing from a lot of the hype cycle in AI right now. So what I keep seeing is tools are moving so fast, but people don't move fast on their own. Change has to be led by people like me and Christina that really think carefully about this intersection on how new technology fits into workflows, how leaders are supporting their teams, and without creating fear or confusion, and how AI can enable better decisions, not just faster ones. So welcome to the show, Christina. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Brian. Hi, everyone.
I really am so looking forward to this. So Chief Philosophy Officer. So I want to jump straight into the learn segment and ask you some learning questions, but tell us a little bit about 10P1 and what being a Chief Philosopher Officer entails.
Sure. So first, I think it's worth just explaining to people that I've actually had a 25-year career in tech, specifically around digital interactive strategy. And I started studying philosophy around 14 years ago. I also teach intro to philosophy. And when I was going through a lot of my classes and learning, I saw like a very significant intersection between philosophy and technology. And so at some point about 8 years ago, I decided I want to teach tech leaders about philosophy because it's really actually very practical and useful for them to understand certain points of view in approaching developing technology. And so then 3 years ago, when I actually could interact with artificial intelligence, that just became more urgent to incorporate thinking and thoughtfulness and asking really good questions and developing moral architectures, which is essentially what 10P1 does. So I build ethical architectures down to the code level. That's what 10P1 does. So there's leadership alignment around moral codes. There's embedded code layers, inference layers, and protocols. And this is really helpful because, as you mentioned, things are moving really fast. And what's important is we keep forgetting that it's actually our sense of morality and norms and the difference between right and wrong that gets infused into these systems. And if we are not actually aware of this or are moving so fast that we've decided or chosen not to take the time to do it, then the system or the technology has to be some sort of safety net for us. There has to be, some sort of morality imbued in the machine if we can do it. So that's what I'm experimenting with right now.
I love it. Wow, what a great overview. And, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but I'm a plant-based individual. And as one, I see the bias on a regular basis in the AI with recipes and everything else. So you're absolutely right. We've got to figure out how we can help curate the code and the rules and everything else. So as you unpack that for us, like you're working with leaders that are in the middle of real change and grappling with these philosophical and ethical decisions. It's not hypothetical change. So I really want to start there. Like, what is something you've really learned about AI? Maybe how people like are responding to it, how organizations handle it, or even something about the tools themselves that's generally shifted how you're thinking about it.
So I think one of the biggest centers of gravity from a business perspective when it comes to AI is the question of speed versus innovation, or speed versus governance. And my contention is that it's not an either or proposition. My contention is that the more you are thinking upstream and strategizing upstream, and I don't personally think I'm saying anything really different than anyone else has said, but for some reason, this continues to be a lingering problem. So, but I think the way I look at it might actually be useful, because if it's not an either or proposition, if you can have both, if you can have speed to market or have an innovative environment, you can have ethical thinking or morality or moral, responses built throughout. I call it systems ethics, where, you have certain checkpoints throughout the deployment process or the creation process that actually helps to speed things up. Because what you're doing essentially is you're removing all the noise and getting really clear about what's important. And you're also getting really clear about what something is and what something isn't, and being able to all work together on very, very simple, accessible, universal principles that everyone can understand. And those principles, or that moral layer, then becomes a constraint layer, or it becomes, an architecture for decision making. If you don't define your role with AI, optimization pressure will define it for you. So when that happens, that costs money, that costs time. You can't revert anything. You can't reverse anything. And then you find yourself with an $8 million lawsuit because someone wasn't paying attention. And so that is really where I see a lot of the friction, is in the business mindset of speed or versus innovation, or versus, doing the right thing.
I love it. I mean, I think a lot of leaders are underestimating that human side of the AI adoption and driving whether it works or not, right? Like, the technology in my mind is the easy part. So what you're saying is the same thing I'm seeing is the AI can go so fast in building whatever you want that you have to slow down. You have to move up the value chain to the product definition, the requirements gathering, the moral and ethical dilemmas. Cause like I can snap my fingers and build it now. Right. So like, let's spend the time planning, thinking, what is it that I really, really want? Does that match what you're seeing?
Yes. And but that's also that also kind of spreads down the workflow, right? So for example, I'm learning and currently building open source agents. And one of the things that I've found really interesting is open source agents have their instruction files. And within those instruction files, the creator or the developer of that open source software has done such an amazing job of putting constraints as defaults in these instruction files. Wonderful. I mean, I've seen things that I'm like, wow, you're being so thoughtful and great. And guess what? I can override all of it.
Yes,
I
right.
can paste over all of it. So at some point, you know, everyone has to be a moral actor at that point of decision where the seam meets the self and the system. And so that means you have to hire people you really trust. You have to start actually working with people and start considering their moral character, not just whether they can do the job, but whether at that moment they're like, should I really override all of these sort of constraint layers because I'm lazy or, you know, because I just want to do my own thing? Like,
that's right.
It's in those tiny nooks and crannies where things fall apart.
That's right. Yeah. It's such an invaluable insight because it applies to whether it's a 10-person startup or a 500 plus person org. I mean, the human dynamic that you're describing is that constant thing. I think that's interesting as we pivot over to say the leverage section, and we dive into that. I'm looking forward to this because I want to get a little bit more specific on what you just said. Anybody can say, like, let's use AI some more, right? But what does it look like when it's working? And like, to me, you hit on the perfect nail on the head there, because how do we hire for that? Right? Like, it is really hard to interview for a strong moral compass or a strong work ethic or those things. Like, that's something that you typically have to just go through the first 90 days and see. And we live in this remote world, you know, so you're coming in to help me build my AI agents, leveraging the open source ones. Like you said, can I override that? Or like, you know, what is the right question to ask in the interview to try and get to the heart of that important matter that you just said that. And then I'm just curious on other ways that you're leveraging AI and some of the stuff that you're working on.
Sure. So look, I'm not an HR person, but you know,
me neither. We play one on TV, right?
But here's what I would do. I would create I would create a thought experiment or a moral dilemma question that doesn't have a right or wrong answer. Because here's the problem. The problem is usually the people that are interviewing for candidates are interviewing through the lens of business incentives. Can this person help me meet my goals, meet the business needs? Like that person that's interviewing is trying to has incentives already baked into their role and also in who they choose as a candidate. So they're not necessarily, they're thinking, are they a fit? Or are they, you know, like a go-getter? But you're not thinking about someone's morality, right? And to me, I think moral intelligence is way more important than emotional intelligence, than intellectual intelligence. And so back to your question, I would try to create interview structures that help to draw out someone's moral intelligence. Now, personality assessments have have made billions and billions of dollars
They
in
have.
trying to understand our personalities. Again, they fail because morality is not our personality.
That's right.
And
Right.
so, we're not, from that standpoint, we're not, our systems and our systems ethics and our systems incentives, who benefits, who doesn't benefit, are people's incentives around monetary gain, or is it more values driven, or does the organization say we're values driven, but really secretly everyone is really super cutthroat and monetarily driven? Like, there's so much to consider, but practically I would just have a moral dilemma related to your organization that doesn't have a right or wrong answer, and allow the person to tell you what they would do in that situation, and then you evaluate whether they would be absolutely not the person to hit enter when doing your next line of code.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Do you run over this person with the train or these 25 kids? It's those moral dilemma questions where there's yeah, that's exactly right. So I do think interviewing needs to change as part of this whole AI realm that we're heading into. I'm curious though, like what is maybe something a little bit more concrete that you've changed in how you work or even how you lead because AI, and something like, I know I can point to a before and after whisper flow, right? Like, I talk to my computer way more than I type to it in just the past 6 months. Is there some examples like that on how you're leveraging AI day to day?
I think so one of my strengths is input, meaning I can digest or ingest maybe, or both, way more information than most people can. And so prior to AI, I was kind of limited with kind of the mediums of information, like actual mediums of inputs, whether it was a physical book or an article online or an ebook. I wasn't able. It was very, very difficult for me to have the constant stream of information that my brain really required in order for me to be a good philosopher. Because being a good philosopher means you have to have pattern recognition. You have to know how people behave in certain contexts. You have to know what the contexts are, the world implications, the social implications, the organizational. I mean, you have to have line of sight of many things, and then at the same time formulate a point of view, or a way for people to help people think through all of that stuff. So before AI, I was very limited to certain thinkers or certain categories of philosophy, or maybe one or two contexts, because the way the mediums and the distribution of information that came to me was very siloed, very channeled, very specific, and not integrated at all. So now, I also, talk to AI. I have agents that are set up where I'm getting the information that I need. Then I synthesize it in my brain. Then I go back to my custom GPTs, talk to them, help that, they have all of my knowledge base, and they help me articulate my ideas. And it feels like this whole world that I needed and that I wanted, I can actually have. And
That's right.
Don't feel hampered or hindered at all. It's liberating. It's wonderful.
I agree. I mean, it's not only the world's knowledge at your fingertips, through a Google search now, but it's curated and handed it to you the perfect way on that. You mentioned, I think, decision making. Like you have these information pipes feeding you all this stuff. You have the GPT agents helping you with stuff. It's something I keep coming back to over and over on the show, right? AI can give you information faster, but does it actually help people make better decisions? Or is it just creating more noise? Like I'd love your philosophical and practical answer on that.
It's interesting because people are like, but it doesn't help with decisions. And I'm like, okay, have you ever written a pro and con list? Like, yes, I should do this. No, I should do this on a piece of paper with a line in the middle. AI does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be able to fully execute whatever it is you decide, but it can absolutely help you decide.
That's right.
The decision is still yours, but
it's.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
But the decision-making process is very much what AI is freaking so mind-blowingly good at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cannot tell you enough how many people I've met, how many initiatives I've started, how many areas of exploration that I've been so inspired by, and directions that I've gone in because I allowed AI to show me options that I would have never thought about on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right.
I decided what paths to take. Sure. But I think it's a bit simplifying the situation by saying it doesn't help you with decisions. That's oversimplifying it, and really said by people who just want to be very dismissive of AI. And that actually, if you're going to be that lazy, then just don't bother,
I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if we really know how it works, like you said earlier, it's a mathematical formula and it's driving towards that central mean average point of words, right? So it's always going to try and come, in my opinion, go towards the middle in something. But you and I can push it one way or another, or tell it to remove those barriers and think in that direction, which I think is the unlocking thing. Like I had that same light bulb moments multiple times. Like I would have never thought of that. The AI just nailed some new cool things. But at the same time, I've been able to bend the AI to my will or have it pushed back. But I love the general concept is, make sure you're a decent enough prompt engineer to say, look, give me the pro cons list. Now, I think I'm going to go in this direction, play devil's advocate with me and tell me why I'm wrong. But you have this sounding board at your fingertips, which really leads to the last segment of our show, leadership, right? And honestly, this is the most important one I'm curious about with you, Christina, is your whole orientation is around people and how they're moving through change. And what I'm seeing across the board right now is AI is shifting the power dynamics inside of organizations. People are using it, are pulling ahead. The teams that are anxious or resistant are falling behind. And the leaders that are caught in the middle are trying to figure out, how do I bring everybody together so I don't create fear and lose momentum? So I'm just curious, how are you thinking about that leadership challenge? And how do you help a leader bring their team through this AI transition that pulls that human flavor into it, and it's not being something done to them?
Yeah. So first, Brian, I've been around for a long time. Okay.
Me too. We've seen it all.
We've seen a lot. We've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting is, first of all, as a leader, the only thing that's bothering you is the turbulence that is occurring amongst your people. That's what's really bothering you, is that you may be having a revolving door of gripes coming through your office. But in actuality, haven't leaders always wanted the cream to rise to the top? haven't leaders always wanted people who are sort of on the cutting edge of things?
Right.
So you're getting what you want. You're getting what you want. Yeah. And the thing is are there departments that are somewhat resistant? Sure, absolutely. Maybe it's for a reason. Maybe not. It's not, maybe AI isn't really appropriate in that context. Or maybe they just need help in understanding or making the connection. Isn't that your job as a leader? People
That's right.
I almost feel like leaders just don't want to do their job, and they look at change and fluctuation and this sort of like things are moving from the bottom to the top and like these power dynamics and these shifts. I personally think, and my experience has been that is healthy. That is really healthy for an organization that wants to be innovative. It needs to change. And so absolutely. To me, the only thing that is causing the agitation is the belief that there's agitation, that there's this belief that we've got this big problem because we've got junior people who are doing a great job. Oh my God. Like, seriously? That's my take on it, Brian.
Yeah, I like it. I see it. I mean, I've seen the junior people not embrace it. I've seen the seasoned vets not embrace it. But it is coming after all of us. So I do think it's another lens of what I feel like you're describing to a certain degree is survival of the fittest, right? Like the ones that are going to embrace this are going to excel. The ones that aren't are going to find a different career path to some degrees. But it's an interesting tension that I'm seeing in the companies I'm working with.
Yeah. Can I clarify a couple points?
Please.
So the first thing is this notion that AI is coming for us. AI is not coming for us. We're coming for us.
That's true.
AI is a separate thing. If there's the competing narratives or the extreme narratives, AI will save us, AI will destroy us. It's not going to do either. We will save us and we will destroy us.
Right. That's
depending
correct.
on how we decide to be smart and wise about this. So that's the first clarification. Right. The second clarification is I am definitely not that sort of old, and I'm not saying this negatively against you, Brian, at all. And I'm really sorry if this comes off that
just
way.
Say it. I know where you're going with it, I think, but say it.
Old industrial age adage of survival of the fittest, which by the way is not what Darwin was not his main takeaway. His main takeaway was actually collaboration and cooperation is key to the survival of a species. That I am a huge proponent of and supporter of. Some steel tycoon from the 1800s read Darwin and was like survival of the fittest, and then he just decided that was how he was going to lead. And then decades later, Gordon Gekko and Wall Street and all the Wall Street dudes were like survival of the fittest. And I can tell you that that's not how we're going to survive this. We're going to survive this by cooperating, collaborating, communicating. So
I agree 1,000% because
is that evolution happens. If we want to talk about Darwinian, evolution happens. It happens in an organization. And then everything needs to rebalance from that evolution. And so how that gets rebalanced really kind of depends on who's inside the ecosystem and who decides who benefits or not. It has nothing to do with AI.
That's right. Yeah. I think it's very, very well said. I mean, I do think the survival of the fittest adage will help the one person get way far ahead, but it will not help the society. Like, we do have to lock arms and collaborate to get through all the changes that are about to come. And we've done it before. We've done it multiple times with ledger clerks switching to Excel, and the internet boom.
Before. I'm sorry, Brian. Yes, Brian, you are
exactly
absolutely right. We have been here before so many times. Many times. This is why I find it hilarious that we are acting exactly the same way that we've always done before, and we just don't seem to do anything different.
Right. Well, I hope some of us are doing stuff different and setting the tone and directive for others to follow. But at the same time, we need to learn from the mistakes of these past technology shifts for a big way. So this has been an amazing conversation, Christina. I hope you can come back and debate more philosophical themes with AI in the future with us here. And I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. So I think, there's a strong framing that AI adoption is like fundamentally a people challenge, like you said. So there's a strong technology component, but it's not the other way around. So I hope a lot of leaders that are watching this podcast see that reframe right now and heard it. So thank you so much for being here, Christina.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Please, how do people watching this episode get in touch, and what links and stuff should we put in the show notes? Hit us with those details.
Just go to LinkedIn. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. Remember that my first name does not have an H, so it's Christina. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Say hello. Thanks.
We will make sure that Christina's without the H is in the show notes, so you can click straight through to that. And to everybody listening out there, if this episode gave you a new way to think about how you're leading your team through the change, please pass this along. Share it with a colleague, a manager, or someone in your network who's wrestling with these kind of same philosophical challenges. So please follow the podcast, leave us a review, and check out all the ways that you can connect with Christina in the show notes below. So thank you again, Christina. It was a pleasure. This has been Brian Denstead. You've been listening to AI with Bri. And remember, the future doesn't wait. So learn, leverage, and lead. And we'll see you next week.
This episode of AI with Bri was hosted and produced by me, Brian Denstead. Produced with help from Nancy Velasquez and Kelly Lopez. Video by Leo Moralina. Sound AI generated. Find us on all platforms at AI with Bri and visit ai.bri.net for more. Learn, leverage, lead.